if it was us that was putting up the timber frame house, we would have put up the timber frame house, fitted the windows, the doors.
Dave the Builder on KFM with Premier Timber Frame Homes, your expert guide to self-built homes. PremierTimberFrameHomes.ie.
Yes, indeed, as we say, if you've any questions for Dave, send them in now, 0833 97 97 97. Week 7 of our building slot, and we've been following our made-up couple of Tom and Mary, or John and Mary, or whatever we called them. We gave them fake names anyway. And they were building a timber frame home from scratch. So whereabouts are we now, Dave? I think when we were talking to you last week, the frames were just going up and the weatherproofing was being done. So what's happening now, and what's the next steps for John and Mary?
So if it was us that was putting up the timber frame house, we would have put up the timber frame house, fitted the windows, the doors, put on the tiles on the roof and the gutter systems, and we would have left the house inside airtight, and we would then be walking away and we would have left a weather-tight house behind us. So then what John and Mary would have had to do is they would have been getting in what's called their first fix, plumbing and wiring. So this week we're going to go through the plumbing, and what they would do is they'd put down their 150mm insulation in their subfloor, and then they'd start running their underfloor heating pipes, you know. But just as I'm touching on that, what they're usually doing these days in the aerated houses is they're using a system called an air-to-water heat pump, and just basically that utilises the energy from the outside air and it transforms it into a usable heat inside. So that basically heats the underfloor heating, which keeps your house warm, you know. Now, what I would recommend for people to do on this, because there is a bit of controversy around air-to-water heat pumps, is you need to get your house designed for the heat pump itself. So if you can imagine, when we relate it back to, let's say, a motor car, if you can imagine driving, and this is where high heat or high bills comes in, electrical bills. If you don't have the right size pump in the house, so if you have a small pump in a big house, and it has happened on many occasions, and this is where, so if you can imagine buying a 1 litre petrol car to drive around Ireland every day on long distance journeys, that's what it's like. You're going to get huge petrol bills every week. So you'd want to go to an energy company, and I know one specifically in Tullamore, Alternative Energy Ireland, and they will design your house for the best case scenario on energy efficiency and heat efficiency.
Right, okay, because we have in our house, it's a new build, and we have the air-to-water system. Now, it is a good system, but obviously it was designed for the size house it is. And what a lot of people like about it is that you just have the one bill then. So it's done through the electricity, I think, the way ours is. So that can be quite handy in that you don't have gas, you don't have your electricity, you don't have your oil, they're not all separate bills, it's all one.
All one bill, absolutely. And as I say, when you get your house designed properly, so, and I'm just going to give you a for instance as well. So if you can imagine you're building a new house and one room will let's say maybe have a vaulted ceiling and maybe a big door, and this room would have to be heated more than the rest of the rooms, and this is where sometimes that the pump could be working harder in that room. So sometimes what the plumber might have to do, instead of putting his underfloor heating pipes in at 6 inches, he might have to put them in at 4 inches to account for the high ceiling and so on. Do you know? Another thing that works great with that is the heat recovery ventilation system, you know, and that basically it circulates warm, filtered, clean air around the home, and it removes any of the moisture and the unpleasant smell from around the home, you know what I mean? So it works very well with that.
Because we've actually had a message in from Anne in Timahoe. You're talking about moisture there. She says, I keep getting mould in the corner of my bedroom. I wash it off, but it keeps coming back. Is there a solution to stop this happening? Would that come into the ventilation side of things?
Yeah, it would come into the ventilation side of things. Like, I suppose damp is caused by hot air meeting a cold surface, right? So and this is quite commonly happens in the corners of houses. Sometimes maybe the insulation has been pulled back from that side of the room. So what I'd advise her to do is first of all go up and make sure that there's if there's, let's say, 200 or 300 mil of insulation all over her attic, make sure there's that amount in that corner, and maybe even just put another little bit on it as well. So basically, to stop mould, you increase the ventilation and you increase the insulation, so sometimes it's even a case that you might have to put in another vent into that room.
And sometimes it's maybe a bigger issue, the fact that she keeps washing it away and it keeps coming back. It might mean, I think ultimately she doesn't want to have to strip walls down, but that might have to happen if the mould has gotten into the walls.
Well, look, it depends on what age the house is. It could be a matter of, because it's coming from the top down, I'd say, if it was coming from the bottom up, I'd say she has a big problem. But because it's coming from the top down, I'd say go up and check the insulation first of all. And look, it's kind of you rule out the easiest thing first, you know what I mean?
Start easy, and then if it gets harder you might have to go on and do it. There's another one in from Martina in 2 Mile House. She says, my son has just bought a new home and it has the underfloor heating. There's such a difference between his house and our old house. Is there any chance that our house can get underfloor heating? It was built about 40 years ago, so can you kind of retrospectively put in underfloor heating, or does it have to be built with the house?
Look, of course it is handy fitting it in the house, when you are building. Yes, it definitely can be done, retrofitting, and there is grants out there for retrofitting at the moment with insulation and windows and solar and so on, so it is possible. And let's say, for instance, there is electrical. If she couldn't, instead of digging up all the floors and literally digging up every floor in the house and putting down underfloor heating, if she wanted to do it in just 1 or 2 rooms, you can just take up, let's say, your lino and put down an electrical mat, which works the same, and it works off electricity.
Alright, okay. Another one in here says, just wondering, we have a house that was built 20 years ago with 9-inch cavity blocks. What's the best way to upgrade insulation at this stage?
So I suppose there's a massive market at the moment for external wall insulation, especially for that type of house, Now, obviously she can do internally, you can do an insulated plasterboard, but then obviously you have your builders coming in and they're kind of making a mess of the inside of your house. That's why the external insulation is quite popular now at the moment, and you can achieve really good U values as well. So like there's hundreds of different guys out there, so I would advise to check the reviews and make sure you get a good person,
What about the spray foam? Would that work in terms of 9-inch cavity blocks, or would you recommend that kind of outside insulation for this house?
Yeah, for this house, look, I know you can pump beads into cavity. I don't know if you do it into that type of cavity, but I think for this one, I definitely say that the external one would be a better option.
Okay, another message then that's come in. Jen in Clane says, is there any way to fix old drafty windows that were bought back in 2007?
Yeah, and look, I suppose it's coming up to probably 2007. Is it nearly, 17 or 18 years there now? So usually what happens with windows is the functionality of them kind of get a little bit loose and stuff like that. There's a good market out there at the moment for different companies around Ireland called the Window Doctor. So they'll come in, they'll tighten up all the hinges. Sometimes they'll put on new hinges, they'll put on new seals around your windows, and like for a small fee, really, if you can imagine, changing all the windows in your house could cost thousands, tens of thousands, depending on the size of the house. But these guys can come in for a small percentage of that and leave everything, airtight again.
Isn't it amazing that air tightness, the difference it makes? Like, I would have went into, aunts and uncles and friends and granny and granddad's house and all that when they got that air tightness done, and the difference in the heat in the house, because you're losing so much just out through those little drafts.
Yeah, no, look, absolutely. And like even today, what we were talking about this morning, with the air to water heat pump, they work best in an airtight house. And most of your, even old houses or new houses, most of the heat loss is through drafts, you know. So it's so vital to get your air tightness very good, or like as close to 100% as possible, and your insulation up to a high standard when you're using that type of stuff.
There's another message just on that outer installation, or I keep saying insulation, and it says, what about on a 40-year-old 3-bedroom house? How much are you talking cost-wise for that insulation?
Do you know, I actually don't know that. It's not something that I've got done, or I suppose the only advice that I'd give them is the guys will come out and they'll assess your house, and I'd always advise to get 3 quotes. So even 2 quotes, you're only comparing one after the other. When you have 3, you kind of have a roundabout. But I actually don't know that at all, you know. Right,
so go out, have a look, get in touch with different companies and get the 3 quotes, and then obviously go with who you think is best suited, or maybe if you're on a budget, who the cheapest might be. Another message in here from Tom and Molly down in Monastreven. We're planning on getting solar panels fitted to our house. The house is 20 years old. The brackets the solar panel company are using to fit the panels are going to screw through the slates and into the battens behind the slates. Is this okay?
I'm going to be honest with you. There's different ways of putting on solar panels onto roofs of houses. Now, you definitely need to be fixing directly to the roof structure. Like fixing to the batten that's fixed to the roof is not adequate. Now, I know this personally because we manufacture roof trusses, and we now have to manufacture our roof trusses to take the solar panel load. And so it's the answer is 100%. You need to screw directly to the roof structure, you know. And even in some cases, you might have to get an engineer to assess the roof structure. You know, if it was a house built 70s or 80s, it mightn't actually be able to take the solar panels, because if you can imagine, solar panels are a big metre by metre or 2 metre by 2 metre, and they're elevated off the roof by a few inches. They're nearly like having a kite on your roof. They're going to be taking a lot of wind load, so they need to be secured directly to the main roof. Directly to the main roof is the answer to that one. Thanks to Tom and Molly in Monastreven for sending that in. Next message says, what does Dave think of 2-inch closed cell spray foam between studs, which are 1 inch of the 9-inch cavity block? Not sure if you know what that means, but yeah. I'd be wary of using closed cell spray foam near timber. So you're not supposed to use closed cell spray foam near timber, because there's 2 types of spray foam. One is open cell and one is closed cell. Closed cell is predominantly used on metal sheds or metal studs. So you could do what that person is talking about there if you had a metal stud, and then you can spray onto your block wall, because the block and the metal stud does not need any ventilation, whereas timber does. Timber needs to be able to breathe, or else it rots. So if he is using timber, he needs to use open cell spray foam, and if he hasn't put in the timber yet, he can then option to go with the steel stud and then spray his closed cell. Yeah, he's come back and said that they're metal studs, then you can use the closed cell spray foam. Yes, he can use the closed cell spray foam. Okay, there's also another one in here that says, can you put tiles on a 15-degree roof, or what would you recommend for a roof that's 15 degrees? So tiles and slates generally go on a 25-degree roof and onwards. Now, that's not to say that they don't get put on. You can buy certain types of slates and tiles that go on lower, but the general rule of thumb is about 25 degrees. Now, for a 15-degree roof like that, I'd probably advise a tile effect roof cladding, and there is also then you could get it fiberglass and stuff like that. But if you want to keep with the theme of the area, let's say there's tiles left and right here, or slates or whatever, you can get slate cladding and tile effect cladding. Okay, that's all the messages we have for the moment. Is there anything else that you want to touch on, Dave? Yeah, so just as I say, if people are going to use the air-to-water heat pumps, from what I know of it and just the feedback that we've been getting back over the years, they work very well with the solar panels. So from what I'm hearing, if you have a house of about 250 square metres and you have let's say 10 solar panels, it roughly cancels each other out. So your energy bill would be about 2,500-3,000 a year, and that's what your solar panels would convert as well. So if you're looking for, it's a good investment if you are building straight away, you know what I mean?
Okay, Hannah has just texted me out from production there to say that a listener has called in to ask, do you go out and give quotes yourself? So for some of the things that we've talked about here, would you go out and give a quote?
Look, I suppose we definitely quote on anything that we do ourselves, and a lot of the time customers would send in architectural plans, or even sometimes just a SketchUp themselves, something that we've to base our quotation on. I have an engineer employed full time, and he does all our quantity surveying, and we're able to get a quotation back within a week. So they're welcome to give us a call, and there is times that I would visit sites, you know, but I suppose for some of the topics that I'm after covering there today, it wouldn't be directly me that we'd be talking to, but they're definitely welcome to give us a call, because we know all the experts in the field. And as I say, I'll have a phone call with anybody, you know, I love a good old chat, and
you wouldn't know.
So as I said, they're welcome to give us a call anytime, and we'll definitely advise them as best we can.
Good stuff. Best way to get in touch with you then, Dave, is how?
So look at info@premiertimberframehomes.ie, and the website is there, premiertimberframehomes.ie, and we're on all the social media platforms, and we're updating every couple of days. We have a story on Facebook and Instagram every day, and it's just that the work that we're doing on a daily basis. So Instagram, Dave at Premier Timberframe Homes, and then Facebook and TikTok is the same, you know.
Good stuff. We'll do it again at the same time next week, just after 10 o'clock here on a Thursday morning. Dave the Builder, good morning to you.
Dave the Builder on KFM with Premier Timberframe Homes, your expert guide to self-built homes. PremierTimberframeHomes.ie